it's a big welcome to another live here in very sunny London. Sorry, that's still dinging away in the background. Oh, I've got background. I always have this, so put it on mute. Sorry about that. I had something playing in the background there. I've obviously got my video set somewhere else. Anyway, so welcome everybody to the live stream. It's great to have everybody here. Lots of people, regulars here, which is fantastic. Let me do my usual couple of housekeeping bits and pieces. As I said, it's in London. Hopefully most of you caught up with the time because the UK has finally changed. So we're back to original times. But let's just talk a little bit about upcoming live streams. So I think most of you, if you were here last week or follow me, you know that I'm heading off on what is probably the most spoken about, requested cruise or line that I've done for a very long time, and that's going finally on Explorer journeys. So I've been waiting a little while before they go. I also chose this route actually because it was a pretty cost-effective route to go. So it's an 11-night on Explorer II, so the newer of their ships. They've got about 6 to come, heading from Barcelona, Montreal in Spain, Tangier, Casablanca, into the Canary Islands, back to Gibraltar, and back to Barcelona. So that means I'm going to be on the ship for 2 weekends. Now, they do have Starlink. They claim the Wi-Fi is pretty good. People that have been on seems pretty good. So we will see whether I will be able to do a live stream. But if I can, I will certainly try and do a live stream next week. So just keep an eye out. I board the ship on Thursday, so I'll have a couple of days to suss out how I think it's doing. I think on the Sunday we're actually in Tangier, if I remember correctly. So just keep an eye out for that, and if I can, I will try and do a live stream. What I'm also going to be doing is what I always do when I'm on trips is I do updates for patrons and members. It's kind of just thinking as I go kind of stuff. So if that's so it's kind of bonus content before I get my thoughts together. If that's something that's of interest, think about joining that. So that's at patreon.com/tips for travelers. But of course, I will do the full video. This week's video, which is causing lots of discussion, which is great, is about my time on Crystal Cruises, which is another one that I was really asked about. So it's about what I thought about it. Was an overpriced letdown, or was it a nice big surprise? So if you haven't watched the video, that is there live. Right. Let's get stuck in. As always, I think most of you who are regular here know, write the word question if you possibly can, and that makes sure that I can spot the questions from the chat. And of course, if you're watching this afterwards, just a reminder, this is a replay of questions, and join my live streams if you want to ask questions. So I'll get diving. There's actually a couple of questions about Antarctica, so follow on from last week's question, but I'll just start first of all with one there's not. So I left a question just before we went live about Fred Olsen. Mum's friends are going on it and just wondered if there were any hints and tips I could pass on. So Fred Olsen is, for those of you who don't know, it's actually a Norwegian-owned line. It's actually quoted. It's part of a quoted company, a Norwegian company called Bonheur on the Oslo Stock Exchange. But Fred Olsen is a very UK-focused line. In fact, one of their ships, the Braemar, is now sailing around the world as Villa V residences. You can buy a cabin on there. Or I'm trying to call them cabins or apartments or studios, whatever they call them. Anyway, so during the pandemic, they bought 2 of Holland America's ships. In relative terms, modern ships. I've been on Fred Olsen's since the pandemic. They're a very classic line and have extremely loyal user base, pretty classic, lots of dressing up, still very much into the black tie, very classic program, and they're pretty good value. People seem to love them. There's been a couple of bloggers and vloggers have been on them recently. So Jamie, for example, he's actually got a bit of a group cruise, I think in October, if I remember correctly, but you'll see lots of bloggers. So certainly, I haven't got any recent videos on there, but you'll find some recent videos from people if you're just going to Google Fred Olsen. But pretty classic. So a lot of people like to dress up. That kind of stuff is my main tip. So let's get stuck into. Actually, maybe I'll do the one on Crystal before I come back to the ones on Antarctica, so I can do those together. So Tom watched the Crystal Cruises video, so thanks for watching that, Tom. And there's actually 2 Crystal Cruises videos, by the way. You'll see there's the one that's out, came out yesterday, which is an overview, but then I've done a specific, which I don't often do, a review of the ship. which is sort of like a bit kind of a bonus in many ways, but I dive into the ship in much more detail. So how did your eggs test do? So I actually didn't show it. Well, you sort of see it, but I didn't show it at all. But as most people know, one of the little tests I use is I test poached eggs are one of the things that I feel are quite a good test of how the kitchen really copes, because eggs just need to be kind of perfect. So I will normally always do an egg test. So I did certainly show my Instagram. I showed a couple of egg tests. They did very well on them. Good eggs. I had actually, when I videoed some of them, I did a couple of explosions because I did it wrongly. So I had to reshoot them a couple of times. Good excuse to order eggs. So very good. So how did the crystal dining experience compare to Cunard Queen's Grill? So certainly in that video, as you saw, I was extremely impressed with the food. The food was incredibly high quality. It was beautifully prepared. Lots and lots of choice. You'd have your kind of crystal classics, which would change every night. You'd have then, I think it was called contemporary cuisine in the main dining room. So I would say the food was, of the scale of Queen's Grill. What you didn't get, though, on Queen's Grill is you didn't get the sort of the flambe stuff they do by the side of, your table. You didn't get all that. You didn't get sort of the silver service of the vegetables. So some of those little touches, the food would come plated, but the menu was excellent. The food was excellent. And also what I like about Queen's Grill is the food is not overly fussy, and the food wasn't overly fussy on Crystal, which I like. It's beautifully presented, but it's not overly fussy. So definitely it was very, very high on that. And actually one of the things we were talking, actually we had my captain's patrons kind of Zoom call-y thing last night, and Mark was on that, and we were talking a little bit about, because he's a huge fan of Cunard's Queen's Grill, and I do have another Cunard crystal which I booked for next year, and I'm hoping he's going to come on it to see whether he agrees on the food side. So let's get stuck into the questions that we've got on Antarctica. So there was 2 here. So let's have a look. Life's Adventures. Hi there. After linking up with Polar Routes in Antarctica, so that was the video I did last week, came out and the live stream we did with Martin, who's one of the co-founders of Polar Routes. I'm a Nat's whisker, I like that term, from booking, but torn between Albatross and Ponant, which is 2,000 more. Yeah, Ponant tends to be more pricey. Have you cruised with Albatross? Unfortunately, I haven't cruised with Albatross. I don't really know a lot about Albatross. I don't know anyone that's been on Albatross. But certainly, Ponant is kind of on the higher end. Certainly my experience with Ponant is extremely good in terms of enrichment program. It's probably going to be a more diverse, in terms of probably a lot of French, for example, speaker on there, but I'm not really familiar with Albatross. I need to go back and look at the document, but I do think the advantage with them is they're slightly smaller ships. So it's smaller numbers, which leads me on to, so sorry I wasn't more helpful there, so keep us posted on that. If anyone does know more about Albatross, maybe you can leave a comment to help Life's Ventures. So David J, can you compare, and I guess that's contrast, for Antarctica, Ponant, Silver Sea Old, in terms of each ship's suitability for Antarctic expeditions landing themselves, enrichment lectures? So David, I would steer you also to watch last week's live stream. So you'll find, on my channel, you'll find there's different headings. One of them is live streams, and listen to that, because we do talk a little bit about this in one of the questions there. But sort of as a summary, what is very important to understand is Silver Sea have sort of quietly shifted from, they used to cap all their ships at 200, and they've let that slip a little bit over now. Certainly on Endeavour, it can't really go over 200, but the others on Silver Cloud and not Silver Spirit, it's Silver, I've forgotten the name of the other one. The 2 ships that they take down to Antarctica, they can hold more people. So they basically, if you go on Endeavour, or you go on Ponant will never go over 200. So it's very important for the landing sites, because you will have much longer landings. Bear in mind that many places you're only allowed 100 people on land at any one time. And in some sites also capped how many people can go there per day. So what I'm hearing people saying, certainly in some of the older Silver Sea ships, is they're now sort of splitting people into, and 80 people are going out. So you're having shorter time on land. Ponant, they won't go over the 200, so you're going to have a longer time on land. So that's quite an important distinction. So if you're going on Silver Sea, I would strongly encourage you to go Endeavour, partly because it's a much newer ship as well, much nicer ship. Silver Cloud I like, but it's a little bit dated these days, I think. So that will be the key thing. Ponant, again, is going to be much more diverse. But if you're going as an English speaker, you will have an English-speaking people. You'll be with English-speaking people on your Zodiac. You'll have obviously the guides that go out with you. The expedition team will obviously speak in English there. So they will look kind of after you from that perspective. I was on when it was like 80-90% French. So we had our separate talks to us in English and so on. And there's normally a big enough crowd there. So I would say that's one of the most important things is I would definitely focus on going a ship that is no more than 200. Of course, there are some that are even smaller, but you're asking the Ponant Silversea. If you're going on Silversea, absolutely go with Endeavour because you want to have that longer time and more frequent landings. So quite a few people. Lou was actually on our captain's call yesterday, so it's good to see Lou joining us again today. Thanks very much. Jeff is here. And I did see a message from Hetty, who's on the Amazon River. Very nice. So thanks for joining. It's good to see actually that it's been great that you've been able to join so much when you're on your big trip around the world. And happy birthday. It was your birthday there. So let's have a look. Quite a few people. So actually lots of discussions around Explora. I think it's going to be very, very interesting. And one of the things I'm often getting, so Lou actually making a point, so I just saw that there. Tanzania internet is often blocked by Morocco, so I need to have a look at. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about checking on those because I know when I was, also with Starlink, when we were in China, they warned us that we would, because Starlink can't operate over China, as I understand it correctly. So she was making alternative arrangements. So I also look at the different fallbacks there. So that's a good watch out. Thanks for that. Gosh, lots of regulars here. Lady Golfer here, etc. Warren is here, and Boca Boys. I never remember if it was Boca Boys or Boca Boys, but I'm assuming it's Boca. But let me know if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. What is your recommended or preferred VPN service when traveling, looking for both PC and smartphone capabilities? Love your Crystal videos, by the way. It looks fabulous. Great, thanks very much. You were on Crystal? I can't remember. I was following you. I sort of been following a lot of your trips. I know I followed you on Explorer and something else, and it was Grandier. I think you, based on what you like, if you haven't been on Crystal, I think you would probably like Crystal, or you might find the ships a little bit dated, or I think they look fabulous. Anyway, but my preferred VPN service, which does work on the computer and the smartphone, is ExpressVPN. And I'll actually leave a link in the bottom. I've just got an affiliate code if anyone's ever interested in that. I should probably leave more of my affiliate codes in that. But I use ExpressVPN even before I'm an affiliate. I find it works pretty well, both land-based and on ships. Now, the problem, actually, one of the things that drove me crazy on Crystal is that they blocked VPNs, even at the premium service. But I have used the VPN on other lines. Now, I know some lines are clamping down a bit, but I like Silversea, they've reduce what you can do on the basic package and have some restrictions on the premium, but I was able to use VPN when I was on Silversea. I'll be interested to see whether I can use it on Explorer. But I did see, in fact, on the chats we had yesterday, Virgin apparently got a third tier now, and to use a VPN, you need to buy the most expensive level, which I think is called Work at Sea. But I use ExpressVPN. It's pretty good. It's relatively inexpensive. I know a lot of people use NordVPN and stuff like that, but I think I stumbled across ExpressVPN originally because I was just experimenting, and that came up, and they had a free trial, but I've not been a subscriber for a while, and it was worked well on all around the world in different places. I think I even used it in China. Actually, I was using it, and pretty much all of the apps work with that. So your Netflix and stuff. It works. It's worked for me even with the BBC iPlayer, although I have to do a funny little thing with it. I'm maybe giving too much information, but what I found is with BBC iPlayer, what I sometimes have to do is I would log onto the VPN, and it wouldn't let me run it, but I would then reboot my iPad that I wanted to watch stuff on, and it would reboot with the VPN on, and then would let me watch it. So it's a little hack. It may or may not be the case. I saw someone else recommending Proton. A lot of people have recommended Proton before. In fact, we had a discussion once on my group cruise, and a lot of people were recommending Proton. I haven't tried Proton, but I know a lot of people were definitely trying that. So that's maybe another one to look at. I should probably experiment with that one, actually. So Chris, good to see you again here. Chris, regular and lots of questions. Looking at a cruise to Croatia, but few ships stay in port at night. Is this a better area to see as a land-based tour? Also, I want to see tulips in Holland on the Oceania next week. Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember you saying you were heading off on that trip. So have a great time and let us know what you think. I'm a big fan of AMA, as you know. Booked Avalon for all sorts of reasons, including price, actually. But anyway, so I have only been to Croatia on a cruise ship before. But one of the things you might want to look at, Chris, is there is a company called Sail Croatia, which is a small yacht kind of size. I can't remember whether it's something maybe up to 20, maybe a little around about that number. So Paul and Carol Love to Cruise, they went on it. I was asked to go on a press trip on it, which I don't do, as you know, so I didn't go on it. But Paul and Carol are actually they were doing a small group cruise. They're charting a whole thing for Carol's 60th. So they really liked it. But that is another option, because that's, it's a small ship experience, very small ship experience. But if you really want an intense Croatia, then you might get a nice combination of both the cruise and the land-based thing. So I'd have a look at Sail Croatia. But I've only done it on the more traditional cruise. Let's have a look. So Lucy's mum is here. Moonman 547 are here. Mike and Carrie, good to see you. Hope that all is going well with you. Lady Golfer has got someone joining Villa V in July. So what you can do with Villa V as a sort of a pre, what's it called, a pre thing. I've got a 2-part series coming out the week after next, which is looking at living at sea. And all different options. So I'm looking at both, living on residential ships, but living on cruise ships. I've done a lot of analysis. People have been doing it. And then the second part is more the downsides. But I also have to talk a little bit about Villa V. And one of the things with Villa V, people don't know, is so it's it's on a 3-year around the world thing, and you have 3 options. You can obviously buy a villa. You can buy effectively a timeshare where you get a certain amount of days or points as a normal timeshare work, or you can buy segments as well, and they do quite intense segments. So if you're looking at a part of the world that you've got enough time to do, because their segments are quite long, but a very intense thing. So I'd be very interested to know on the Villa V side. So there's quite a few people I follow on Villa V. I don't know anyone personally, but there's quite a few people who post content around Villa V, which is very, very interesting. Of course, thank you, Caroline. Now, I don't know if it's Mother's Day globally, but certainly in the UK and Europe, it's Mother's Day today. So happy Mother's Day for all you mothers. And I know sometimes, North America and Europe and UK have slightly different times for Mother's Day and Father's Day. So good reminder there. Thanks for that. Bobby, taking Holland America on the Oosterdam ship that I really like. In fact, next year I've got a month-long trip, Latin America, booked on that, from Athens to Egypt. Do you reckon we stay with only the Holland America excursions or private for Egypt? It's one of the History Channel. Are you familiar? So, is it a History Channel charter? That would be amazing to do that route, because I'm guessing they would have. I need to have a look at that. I'm guessing they would have incredible speakers and stuff like that. That sounds an amazing way to do that. Personally, I would probably recommend staying with the excursions, particularly if it's linked to the History Channel, but also because in many of those places, where you dock is a very, very long way from where you're going to be going. And Egypt is a little bit, from a security perspective, is still a little bit tense. And it's probably just an idea you want to stay linked to the ship, because you're going to be traveling a long way. And I would tend to stick with cruise line excursions if you're going a long way. Then I would say, if you don't want to do that, because I'm guessing they will be quite costly, is have a look at another cruise line which is going another option, which will build in lots of guarantees in terms of getting you back. So that's like Venture Ashore is one, and the other is Shore Excursions Group. I will also put links to those in the show notes, maybe 4 or 5 minutes afterwards. If I was doing that route, I would stick with the cruise line ones, just because it just seems it just knowing, having been to Egypt, now the year before last, I would just try and stay linked to that. Lots of people watching the Crystal video, which is great. Susan enjoyed them. Hesham, very nice comment there. Watch them more. Chris, Right. Now, this is quite a big question, so I'll see if I can answer this without off the top of my head, without sort of thinking about it. After viewing your crystal videos, thank you also for watching them, I'm still on the fence regarding the value of luxury over premium, in particular for multi-generational cruises. Thoughts? Okay, so in terms of multi-generational, I think that's probably an easier question. Chris, I would tend to lean more towards the premium ships, and even depending on who I'm going with, almost the value ships, if you like. So I'll just define what I'm talking about. So premium, sort of within the industry, is known really as your Holland America, Princess, Celebrity, Disney's in their Virgin Voyages, is that sort of group. You then have that small ship luxury, which is your Vikings. I think where Explore Journeys is, but I'll see once I've been on Windstar. Then you go to ultra luxury, which is where your Crystals, Seabourn, Silver Sea, Regent Seven Seas. But certainly for multi-generational, I would probably go with those, or even if you've got younger people in, I would still look at your Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, just in terms of the entertainment and things to do. So if you're going on Crystal, they do actually have, as you probably saw in that video, if you've got young kids, younger, sort of teens and stuff going, they do at peak times have that kind of kids teens program, but it's not geared for that really at all. The entertainment is not geared for kind of a crowd. I mean, you probably saw in the video, I thought even with my age, the entertainment was too old, and I'm hardly a spring chicken, as it were. So I would tend that also because it's really expensive to go on a multi-generational cruise. When we were on Regent over Christmas, they did have some kind of multi-generational stuff. Luckily, because there's other multi-generations, so the teens and sort of had other people they could mix with, but they're more like to find people on the others. I would also strongly suggest, if you are looking at the premium section, to look at Celebrity and to look at their Edge class ships. So Edge, Apex, Beyond, and Ascent coming, because they're also kind of more vibrant, younger kind of stuff. So I would tend to lean more there because they're just going to cater for a wider range of people, and they're more likely to feel more comfortable because you're going to have younger people and stuff around and about. But again, do really also think about your, the big crazy ships, but depending on who you're going with and how important it is to keep them kind of happy. Edmund in Singapore, fantastic. Well, I'm trying to think what time it must be. Very late for you if you're in Singapore, but thanks for joining. Oceania Allura is coming out in July. Hope to see you. I don't have any plans on Allura, but there's quite a few people that I've spoken to that I do know have Allura lined up. It's a sister ship to Vista. The ship is very, very beautiful indeed. Andrew's here from the Isle of Wight, which is great. So Pete, I'm going to Explore II next year. How was your on-ship experience booking before this week's cruise? Pete, one of the things that has been very erratic has been some of that stuff. And even, the Explore Journey people can't quite answer the question. So I booked, as I always do, I booked my trip through my travel agent Sarah. And what I found with the online system, both the website and the app, is it originally wouldn't let me book any dining. But then it would eventually, I spoke to them and I sent them messages, and Sarah spoke to them, and then I could book dining for most of the restaurants, the ones that are the specialty restaurants. Two that are included, which was Sakura and Marble were included, and then the Italian is an extra charge. Now I haven't booked that online because looking at it, they have like a menu, a pairing menu, and I don't really want to do the pairing menu, but you only seem to be able to book that option, which is very expensive. It was like £175 or something. And I don't want that option because I don't want the pairing option. So I have to wait till I'm on board. So I did that, but I can't book any of the excursions, or what they didn't call them excursions. They call them, I forgot what they call them at all. And I contacted Explorer myself through the help thing, and they said, you can't book any excursions. You have to book them through your travel agent because you booked through a travel agent. Other people have said, well, that's not true. They booked through a travel agent, they could do it. And they could never unlock it for me. So I haven't been able to book any excursions. They told me I had to book it through travel agent Sarah, but they weren't going to pay any commission for doing them, or I could call them. So it was a little bit messy. Now, the other thing I could do is I could put in some preferences. So I could say, like, I wanted non-alcoholic drinks in my cabin, or you could choose, I wanted, your type of pillow and your duvet. So we'll see how that flows through. So mixed, probably not giving more information than you needed. So mixed. Dean asking the question, if there's any signs of tourism being impacted. The only stuff that I've seen, Dean, is in yesterday's paper, they were talking about how flights between Canada for the summer and the US are down a huge percent. The paper's reporting something like 20 to 30% down. That's the only thing I've seen. I haven't seen anything else from that perspective in terms of data, etc. Certainly, we're seeing cruise demand for cruises going up. We're seeing, tourism season starting to kick in Europe. Certainly, the cruise lines, looking at their reports, they're talking about high demand in the US, high demand in Europe. I think also the point that people were talking about is, I know probably the Canadians are the most exercised, I guess, at the moment with the conflict going on between the two countries, and are probably certainly the questions I get are mostly from Canadians. I've actually made a video which isn't edited yet, just looking at who owns what, because a lot of people ask me around that. They've asked me on the live stream before, so I'm kind of doing a video that will come out in a couple of weeks' time around that. So I haven't seen anything yet, and I think in reality, my view would be it's going to be about economics. So if people feel they don't have money, then I think it's going to be an economics thing, so we'll see how that settles down. George plays. I'm guessing that looks like video games. I've never gone into video games. It's really interesting. Probably just because I'll probably be addicted to them, but I've never played video games. Is there a good overview of all world cruises or cruise lines that offer world cruises? George, I'm trying to think. There's no sort of actual website, I guess, that does world cruises. What you probably find if you go to, I haven't looked at it recently, but I think I'm right in saying if you go to a site like Vacations to Go, for example, they have lots of different themed tabs, and I wouldn't be surprised if they don't have one for world cruises. The challenge being, of course, there's a lot of one of the trends is lots of cruise lines are offering kind of grand voyages, so like the 70-day stuff like that. But there isn't one, I'm not aware, so if anyone knows, there's a resource. But generally speaking, most cruise lines, once you get into the premium category, the luxury category, and the ultra luxury category, all of them, I think all of them will offer a world cruise. What you get less so is once I guess Royal Caribbean did experiment with a world cruise. They only did it once, they've never done it again, or they haven't announced it. MSC do a world cruise, but the others, kind of Norwegian, Carnival might do an extended one. But so pretty much all cruise lines do, but you're right, they're not all in one place. The important thing to understand, though, George, with world cruises is they pretty much all happen in January, February, March, cover through to May time period. And that's because you have this funny time between the sort of end of the peak Caribbean season and before the Alaska Mediterranean season starts. So that's when people do their world cruises. So you're also so if you want to do a world cruise that kicks off in June, you're going to be way more limited. Tom, thanks for letting me know the Facebook link isn't working, which is very frustrating because I know Paul and Carol, I think theirs work successfully on Facebook. So I will keep, I will check that and keep chasing that and check the connection side. So let's have a look. People asking questions around US backlash. I haven't seen anything at all around that. The only thing I've seen is people getting uptight about Americans talking politics on ships. That is winding a lot of people up. And I'm sure I can understand why, but that seems to wind people more up. Imports people aren't bothered. It is what I'm seeing. People are too busy getting on with their own lives, I guess, and whatnot. Oh, here we go, Burka Boys. So I didn't mean to be dismissive of that. I'm just saying, like, in ports, it's kind of people are more focused on like kind of the local situation rather than what's going on. And I guess as tariffs run out, we may see that change. We will be on Crystal next month. Oh, brilliant. I thought it was Boca Raton. That's what I always assumed. Oh, Tom found it, so maybe it is on. Jim recommending Proton. Chris, I'm not sure why they block VPNs. And I did actually kind of sort of raise it, and particularly because I know some people need VPNs to do work when they're on cruises. So I don't know whether they were blocking VPNs to stop people kind of stream, but I could stream my Netflix, say, for example, but I couldn't stream because some with the way even Netflix works with some of the rights, some shows or films that it'll show you where it'll show you the Netflix based on where the Wi-Fi is, which I think was showing a US listing, and then we were getting Chile. I wasn't in Chile, but I was getting like Hong Kong listings, or I can't remember. So let's have a look. Hisham. Now I have a different perspective on this to most other people. So do you recommend sticking with one cruise line to earn more miles and privileges? Thank you for informative videos. Personally, I don't, partly because of my channel, but also largely speaking, to get really meaningful benefits, you have to cruise an enormous amount. So before you get really attractive perks, whether it's included Wi-Fi, which is hundreds of dollars, or free cruises, you have to really, you're talking about 200, 300, whatever nights. So I don't tend to, because I often think one of the traps that you need to think about is often you may find if you're sticking with one particular cruise line, first of all, you're limiting yourself to what they're offering. Now, if they have a very big fleet, that's probably going to give you lots of options. So if you Holland America or Princess or something, you can pretty much go anywhere in the world with loads of options and routes and stuff. But there is a risk you have to think about is, if you want to travel widely, are you limiting where you can go, or how good they are in, I don't know, if you want to go to Australia or you want to do Europe or whatever, or Alaska or something. So first of all, are you going to be limiting yourself? Secondly, you also think about is if you're locked into one cruise line, you may miss out on opportunities where you might be able to go on a similar cruise line of the same grade or whatever. But actually, there's some deal that's on that is going to more than compensate for what you're going to get in perks. So for example, I have very high status with Cunard because we cruise a lot with Cunard. So we're like platinum, like the top tier. But in reality, all you get is some discounts on Wi-Fi. You get some some discounts on laundry. You get priority embarkation, which we get with the cabin we book anyway. And you get a little bit of discount on onboard shops. It's just not really worth for the amount of money that one has spent. And when we started moving around, we got different experiences. Now, I know other people really like building perks, and there are some where it is fantastic. So, for example, what I really like about the Royal Caribbean group is if you go on Royal Caribbean, Celebrity, and now Silversea, your points all amass up. So the great thing was that was a great program to build loyalty on because you can do it across a range of cruise lines. And when I went to Royal Caribbean, it was fantastic because I straight away was in a diamond level, which gave me 4 drinks vouchers, which was more than enough that I needed. It got me into the Diamond Lounge, which I think they might change because so many people are Diamond now, but you got a little private lounge. I think got priority embarkation and a whole bunch of other good perks. So that was good because I could still use different cruise lines. In fact, I got most of that status through being on Celebrity rather than anything else. But it was also great because then when I went on Silversea, I then got the perks at a high level. So I got free laundry and some other perks, which I can't remember. So that was quite a good program. I really like that. Carnival Corporation, Norwegian Group don't do that combined thing yet. So really, those are sort of the watch outs. But if you are going to cruise a lot and you think the cruise is going to give you loads of options, and the perks are going to be more than compensated by missing out on deals elsewhere, then do it. I should probably revisit and run a loyalty program video. I haven't done one for a very long time, and probably being a little bit more articulate about that. And I know a lot of people disagree with my perspective, which is always good. Doing videos is quite good when you get kind of debate going, which is always great. Now, Rhonda, good to see you here, Rhonda. Dave and I are leaving on Oceania Regatta for Southeast Asia. Fabulous. Have you been in an R-class penthouse? What has been your experience? A couple of things for answer that. You may or may not know that Norwegian Group are doing some interesting things with their ships. So the Navigator, Regent Navigator, which I'm actually booked to go on in October for a month-long trip down the coast of West Africa. And I did it previously in the Caribbean. It's an old ship, about 400 and something, 25 passenger ship. So Norwegian have actually just signed a deal with a company called Crescent Seas, which is a new spin-off of a US-based real estate company. They have signed a deal with that, which from next year, from 2026, is going to be converted into a residential ship. And although the management team and stuff are going to be the same kind of management team, but it's going to become a residential ship so leaving the fleet as they bring in Prestige, their new ship. Now, Oceania Regatta also is going to be very interesting because that has now been leased to an Australian company that are going to run basically a year-long round-the-world intensive cruise. It's going to be branded Explorations by Norwegian, but it's going to be the Regatta ship. So Regatta will be leaving the Oceania fleet, I guess, as they're being a lure incident. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they do with Serena and Insignia. But it seems to me, because Norwegian have new ships lined up, that they are starting to, with these older ships, looking at different routes. So will the Insignia and Serena become part of that Crescent Sea thing, if that works well as a residential ship or not? Sorry, just dropped my pen. Stop me playing around there. Anyway, so Oceania Regatta, very exciting. Southeast Asia, fantastic. Have you been in an R-class penthouse suite? So I, on Oceania, on the R-class, I haven't, but I've been on the sister equivalent on Azamara. So I've been in the penthouse, which is because it's exactly the same ship, as you know. So I have been on that. What I liked about them, of course, is you've got the bigger bathroom, which is fantastic. Obviously more space because they're quite cozy. Those cabins, the bathroom is a big thing. The watch out I would have, Rhonda, is all of those R-class penthouse cabins are underneath the pool deck. So I did get a little bit annoyed with the scraping and setting up of chairs and stuff. So that's my only watch out. So if you can get one there's a few that are sort of under stuff that's not the scraping bit, or to just have a look at and see the stuff. But that was a slight issue. Of course, more in the morning, during the day. Once you get to the evening, obviously, it's less of an issue because that once they've reset at night and they don't have much stuff out on in the evenings out on the pool deck. For example, even though I was actually sort of underneath the outdoor restaurant, I can't remember what it's called, area on Oceania, but that's my only thing. Only watch out, but definitely that makes a huge difference with the cabins. Simarina, how many cruises of yours have had a norovirus outbreak? Did you manage to walk away unscathed? Thank you. I love your work. So a very topical question, because certainly at the end of last year and certainly during the norovirus season this year, both on land and at sea, has been quite busy. Is that the right word? Certainly there's been quite a few ships. In fact, Queen Mary 2 had a breakout because at the moment there's been a couple of on America ships, Princess ships. A couple of them have had outbreaks. I've only been on two cruises that have had some norovirus. Once Queen Mary 2, once on a Fred Olsen ship. I've been on 2, which is not many because I've done 110 cruises now, I think it is. And I have, touch wood, always come unscathed because I am obsessive about when I'm on a cruise. So I'm obsessive about washing my hands, not using gel, washing my hands a lot. So I also have to keep hand cream in my hands, but I do obsessively wash my hands. I will tend to do things like when I'm I tend not to use the lifts unless I'm on a Royal Caribbean ship. I don't get tired of walking, never on a big ship. But I tend not to use the stairs, but I won't sort of hold on to the handrails, as it were. I will be I tend not to use the buffet. I'm not a big buffet fan, so I tend to avoid the buffet on most ships. So for breakfast, if I possibly can, I will go to the main dining room, depending on excursion times. I will sometimes eat, I might eat lunch in the buffet because I like to just have salad and stuff. And the evenings, obviously normally we'll go to the main restaurant or speciality or whatever. So, because for me, the buffet is kind of a big watch out area, when it's a self-serve buffet. I know lots of people take gloves. I've seen that quite a lot actually these days. People take gloves and use those at the buffet, but I tend to avoid the buffet. So I tend to be a little bit obsessive around that, but certainly it's worked. I've kind of avoided that. Yeah. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully that stays true. Sizzle HQ, love that. What top sites in the UK should you look at for solo cruising? So Sizzle HQ, there's actually a site which is called Passion for Cruises, which is the one that came to mind. Now they host quite a few solo cruises, so they're a good one to look at for solo cruising because they will have kind of the latest deals, etc. That's probably the one that I keep an eye on the most. And as I said, particularly if you're interested in hosted cruises, they'll often have kind of good deals and quite big solo groups. You tell me something like 80, 90 people solo cruising. So they'll tend to use a lot of things like MSC, that kind of stuff. But the advantage of those is a lot of them are selling out of the UK, and they do quite a nice briefing. They do they'll do like a webinar / live stream beforehand. A lot of the people solos know each other. So I was on a cruise once where Passion for Cruise was on. That was on MSC Virtuosa, and I went and I knew the person who was hosting that. Went there, and the solos all kind of lots of them have made friends. They know each other and stuff like that. So that's the main that's the main one that I would take a look at. Now, if you look at my video, if you just go to the channel and just search solo, there is a video I did, which I don't think needs updating because it's still updated. If you look in there, I do talk about some other sites, and I feel like there's one other UK site that I've sort of forgotten about. So they actually purchased a suite. Great. So please let me know. I'd love to know how that goes. Journey with Josh, good to see you here. Loved following your amazing Antarctica trip. I'll be doing a Japan cruise next year. I love Japan. I love Japan. Do you have any info about where to stay in Tokyo, how to get around, what to do in Japan? So Journey with Josh, I do actually. So if you look at my, I don't know if you are an Instagram user because I follow you on Instagram. So if you go on my Instagram, if you have a look at, I've stored at the top there stories, and you look at my Japan, I think I've got a Tokyo story all around Tokyo from this last trip I did recently, where I spent 4 days in Tokyo. But also if you sort of scroll back and you'll see at the end of 23, I think it was October 23, there's another one for Regent where I have some more stuff on Tokyo where I spent 3 days there. Then also if you search in my shorts, I've got some Tokyo, but from last time on things to do. So in terms of where to stay, so I stayed, the first time I stayed at the Sofitel, which was part of the Regent package. It was a little bit far away going on. I actually stayed at the Intercontinental near Ginza, which is on the Ginza line, which is really, really, I love staying there. All hotels that you've probably seen looking at are crazy priced. But in reality, though, Josh, is the is phenomenally cheap and really easy to use. So I would encourage you to do that. And what I would encourage you to do is get around, use the metro. And it sort of almost doesn't matter where you stay because the metro is very interconnected and it's very, very easy to get around. Now, in terms of using the metro, I'm going to show you something which I only discovered afterwards. So what I did was there was a flyer in the metro targeting tourists where you could buy a pass. It was 24, 72 hour, etc. pass. But also, what's even better is if you're an Apple phone user, if you go to wallet, I don't know that I really need to do a live demo. But if you go to the wallet there, and if you push the plus sign, the ad on the plus sign, you'll see a thing coming up which is travel cards, and there you can actually choose to buy and load a travel pass for the Tokyo Metro, and that then you can just use your phone. So I did kind of the old-fashioned way. I hadn't actually even realized it was the thing on wallet, and I was actually on I was on a cruise. Yes, I was on a cruise. I was on a Crystal Cruise, and I was getting off and flying to Hong Kong, and some people I had dinner with, some people who follow the channel and are actually patrons, they'd asked me if I was using, I can't remember the name of the card, and they had shown me, here we go. So you add travel card, and then you can find different countries. You can go to Japan, and you will then could choose the card, and Suica card is the one that I know they were using, and then you can just load it up, and then you can just use your phone. So Metro is fantastic. What I also strongly recommend you use, Josh, and it's improved even since when I was then 23, is use Google Maps. So when you're going anywhere, put in wherever you are, your hotel, and you're going to the Tokyo National Museum. The great thing about that is it'll tell you how to get to where the metro is. It'll also tell you which exit to get off at, and so on and so forth. Now that's quite important in some of the places in Tokyo, because some of the metros are quite complicated, and sometimes you have to move between stuff, and sometimes quite far. So knowing when you get to a place, there might be 10 different exits, and then you need to go to exit C or B or number 12 or whatever. Amazing. So strongly recommend that's the way you get around. In terms of what to do in Japan, have a look at that. If not, drop me a message, because I did also do a post. I was mentioning earlier, I do for patrons and channel members, I do kind of this extra content, and a lot of people are asking me a similar question to that. And I did a list of must-do things, which I keep saying I should post on my blog as well. So if not, send me a message and I will send you a list of things to do. Hopefully, you're spending lots of time. I was there 3 days before. I was there 4 days, and just so much to do. Let's have a look. Rhonda, follow-up question. What are your must-haves for long plane rides? Now, Rhonda, I know you've asked me this question sort of what grade do I fly? So as I mentioned, my must-have for a long plane ride is, if I possibly can, is go business class, lie flat seat is a must do. So I would often compromise on other things to be able to get that. And as I think I mentioned before, I'm an obsessive collector of air miles through my credit card stuff. So, and then I always plan. So like Mark and I, for trips we've got like to Australia at the end of this year, and I've got trips like way out, the 300 whatever days before, so because I booked them far out, I will go on when I know the reward seats are coming. So anyway, that's one thing. That's probably what you're asking. My other is, my must-have for long plane rides is I tend to load up my iPad with shows I want to watch, because I find airlines are very erratic in terms of what movies they have, I feel, these days. So I always used to find a way of catching up movies, but sometimes I find they're not necessarily that. So I tend to bring my own stuff. I also have, and I wish I haven't got them in here. It was actually something that someone once bought Mark. I think some work colleagues bought Mark this huge, it's a massive wraparound eye shade thing. It's called Drowsy, as you spell it, Drowsy, and they sell them on Amazon. And it's huge and it's very padded. But what's great about it is it completely covers your eyes. It's very soft. It also sort of covers your ears. So if you've got earplugs in, and that you in this little cozy little world. So I found that really good for sleeping, as I think I mentioned before. I'm quite fortunate that I can sleep on planes. That's from doing 20-something years of corporate long-haul travel for work. Kind of, I think I've taught myself. But that's kind of, so I also bring my own ear. I don't like those foam earplugs. I use silicone earplugs because I find that locks it out much more. And my other must-have, which is not really a must-have, it's a must-do, is I set my watch to whatever the local time is, and I go onto that thing. So if it's now 10 o'clock at night when I get on the ship, I will go to sleep. I will get straight into the zone. Is there any must-haves? I also take snacks. I take snacks as well. I always have snacks because I always get hungry on a plane. So I always have snacks. Looks like people are recommending some Tokyo hotels, which is great. Godzilla Hotel, the Gracie Hotel. I see the Godzilla hotels. I get cases from the film. Shinjuku is a great district as well. Was asking if you have any plans on YouTube that'll teach you not to survive. Okay, so I think someone must have asked that further up. Calling all ports are here. Diana and Andrew are here. I saw you actually asking the question about, calling all ports, that's their channel. They've recently been on Explora II, trips on Explorer. I can't remember if they're both Explorer II or Explorer 1, or did Explorer 1 on Explorer 2, and have a video, I get you working on a video around all the food stuff. So what am I most looking forward to on Explorer? A couple of things, one of which is just the overall experience, of course, just to see where it kind of all fits in the world. I have a feeling I know where it fits, partly because of the ship size. So I'm just, that whole over experience, and whether actually MSC are able to truly deliver a kind of a seamless linked to a question earlier around how I'm finding the pre-cruise experience. If they can generally deliver what feels like a luxurious experience. Obviously, really looking forward to the ship, all the stuff I've seen, including your video. It looks amazing. And I'm really looking forward to the food, and particularly with the food, I'm really looking forward to the marketplace. I think it's called the marketplace. They're sort of equivalent of the buffet thing, because one of the things I miss, particularly on the sort of higher end ships, is in the evenings that more casual dining, and it looks like you can have, but like good quality, good casual dining in that marketplace. So if people don't know, it looks like it's sort of like almost like a food hall kind of place rather than a traditional buffet with different stations. Sort of similar to what Virgin have done in a way, but I'm assuming maybe a little bit more, even a little bit more at market. So that's what I'm most looking forward to, and of course getting a sense of who it's for, the passengers and stuff like that. I chose this not so much for the itinerary. So I booked this originally to focus very much on the ship. So I haven't really thought about the destinations. And as I don't know if you were here when I arrived, when I asked the question, I haven't been able to book any excursions yet, and I haven't booked any excursions. I've looked at them and I've researched some of the ports that I haven't been to before. Some of them I have been to before, and I think I'm probably going to mostly do self-exploring stuff. Because also one of them I'm going back to later in October, where I have got some excursions booked when I do that navigator trip. So that's what I'm probably most looking forward to. I'm also looking forward to, I think I'm in a very similar cabin to your cabin, and the cabin looks great. So that's what it is. I think that's right. I'm looking forward to your food video, which I'm guessing probably won't be out before I go. So it'll be a good comparison. So there's only some discussion about Villavi. Villavi has a couple of things. So if you are wanting to see more Villavi content, Villavi just recently released a video, a walkthrough, but there is two guys that I follow. I'm going to quickly see if I can find them. They posting quite regularly. Let's see if I can find them quickly, because I have in my watch later. I watched the most recent one. Let's see if I can find, here we are. It's called DC Hidden Gems. It's two gay guys who, it's quite, because their story's quite interesting. They bought originally like an ocean view. They realized after going then that it was too small. So it'd be interesting to see, Lady Golf, whether your friend finds it too small. And they eventually bought a suite, and they talk a lot about why that changed. And they did a video about 2 weeks ago, maybe 10 days ago, around kind of what's working and what isn't working. So that was very interesting. And they've just launched one, which I'm just looking at now, what we learned living on a cruise ship full time with Villavi. But they're quite, they post kind of every 10 days or so. There's a few other people who post, but they're quite interesting. Larry, I don't know that I have a great answer to this, so I'm hoping other people do. Joining a Windstar cruise in Dublin this summer. Any excursion recommendations there for non-drinkers? We have 2 days free. So I've been to Dublin a couple of times, but they were always more work or conference related. So I haven't done a lot of sightseeing in Dublin. So I'm a terrible person. I know, obviously, I guess what you're referring to is the Guinness is the big sort of iconic thing that many people go to. So if anybody has good Dublin suggestions, please can you do those? The last time I was in Dublin actually was getting off a Windstar cruise, and I actually flew out that same day, so I didn't do that. I have more. I'm trying to remember when I was on Princess Cruise in Dublin what we did. I must have done something. I can't remember. Obviously, it wasn't very good if I can't remember. So please, I know lots of people here would have been to Dublin and have much better tips from me, and hopefully you can help out Larry after my terrible ability to not answer that. Just a reminder, write the word questions so I don't miss it, but B. Baron, I didn't miss it. Hello from New York. Hi there. Is it safe to cruise to Greece, Santorini, and Turkey in June? Would it be too hot? So it's not too hot in June. Once you get in July, August, it can be very, very hot in those areas. Now, I guess you're asking in terms of safety to Greece, Santorini, because of the earth tremors. They've just this week again opened up the again for ships. I think the first one called this week after this kind of earthquakey things. So of course, I guess with earthquakes, it's very unpredictable what's going to happen there. But I'm assuming the fact they've opened it, they must be extremely sure that things are okay. So if in terms of safety, I think that's probably fine. Turkey, obviously, there's quite a lot of issues going on politically in Turkey at the moment. lots of protests going on. So certainly we'll see if that's calmed down by June. What I would keep an eye on that. I'd keep an eye out on the, I guess, State Department travel advisories, and probably my sense would be with Turkey is probably stick with cruise line excursions, because it's going to be well linked to the cruise line, and maybe the trouble sort of calmed down a bit within Turkey. They got a little bit heated in recent times, like there've been lots of protests. They've arrested and detained journalists. They've thrown some journalists out, and so on. So it's getting a little bit kind of heated there. Have a good weekend, Larry. Thank you very much. Let's have a look. Yeah, lots of people saying the same thing. It's hot, but not crazy hot. Oh, Randy's here today. Great. Good to see you, Randy. Let's have a look. Again, just trying to write a question. So hopefully I don't miss questions, but Patricia, didn't miss yours. Going on with Windstar in May for the first time includes our flight from LA on Tahiti Air. Have you anything about the flight? Also confirming can't book restaurants on board. So I have flown on Air Tahiti to and from there twice. Once in 2019, once in 2023. It's a great airline. It really is. It's super nice food, really good service, very modern planes, because they're all Dreamliner 787 planes. The planes are pretty modern and new, so it's great. Your timings, you will get there really late at night on that leg, because I've done that leg before. And I haven't done the Windstar Breeze in Tahiti, and when I've done Windstar equivalents, I can't remember booking in advance the restaurants. You obviously have some specialty, but I think you're right, you can't do them on board. But don't quote me on that. I don't remember on all Windstar trips booking before. Danny's here saying hi, which is good. Oh, so cruise first. Sizzle saying you can do above 100 days. Oh, here's an interesting sort of side question. I noticed that no one is wearing a lanyard with their cabin card. Where do they put it if they don't have a pocket or a purse? This is the old lanyard, non-lanyard debate. I'm not a big fan of lanyards, but when I have them, I find them very helpful. So my group cruiser gave everyone a lanyard, partly because we had some of the bits and pieces that we had, some raffle tickets and stuff, but I actually found it really handy. I have it in my pocket, so that's what I do. But if anyone, if you don't have a pocket or a purse, I think your lanyard is your only option. Obviously, if you're on Princess now, of course, you've got the little wearable medallion thing, but I would say something around your neck. So someone left a, I think they called it a super chat. Dirty Jim and the boys, are trains up and running from Amsterdam to London yet? I don't know 100% on that, because the train station is now open, and I'm pretty sure I've seen it that it is running. But certainly, if you look on the Eurostar site, because it's only Eurostar that does it. So if I just have a look on the Eurostar site, that will tell you if you can book it. But I'm pretty sure, because I know the station is open, and I'm pretty sure I saw it reopening. But I don't want to quote that because I haven't actually done it myself. Let's have a look. Sorry, I swiggled down. Phone lanyard with card patch. A lot of people spoke about that. I've seen lots of people with the cards. They have the phone and the card. I would just check whether they have, because I've seen people do it, but sometimes with the cards they can be with the magnet. It sometimes makes the cards not work. So I would just double check that if you are using them. But I've seen lots of people using that. Does anyone offer cruising crosses to Australia? Jeff, not specifically. You can get some cruises, a lot of the world cruises effectively will head the way to Australia. And I guess some of the ships, when they reposition, will come down from Asia down. So it's not really seen officially as kind of a crossing as such, because they'll call a lot of ports down the way. So a lot of them will come down through Singapore, Bali, come down Australia, kind of that way. You will get some coming across though from Africa. So I know some of the Cunard world cruises will go sort of Cape Town. They might go to Mauritius or Seychelles. They might cross to like Sri Lanka and come down into Fremantle as the first port of call. Let's let's have a look. Just a reminder, write the word question so that I don't miss questions. Okay. No is the short answer. Will you build the Lego Titanic to go with the Cunard ship? I have seen that. It is a massive thing. A friend of mine's a huge Lego fan and is a Lego trader, buys and sells lots of Lego. No, I don't think I have the patience to do that, but it would look pretty cool. I actually have another ship model up at the top there, which I probably should move down. Actually, that's the QE2 there. Now, I would like some more models. These models aren't made anymore, and I always on the lookout for nice big meaty models. I should probably do that. I don't think I would have the patience to actually build the whole thing. So let's have a look. Let me just go back because I think there's a couple of questions that I've missed. The Brewess, love you, thank you very much. Which cruise line can you recommend that typically has the least number of children? Trying to avoid the word nicely. Do you have experience with AIDA? I haven't been on AIDA. AIDA, pretty much you need to be German speaking to go on AIDA. They don't have a reputation for necessarily catering as well for international speakers, unlike say Costa or Mein Schiff and stuff like that. So I don't have any experience with AIDA. I've seen the ships around a lot. In terms of number of children, if you want to avoid children completely, the best, of course, is Virgin Voyages or Viking. Virgin Voyages, you have to be over 18. Viking, you have to be over 18. The Saga, which is old, is 50 plus, much older. But those are the key ones. You find it, I'm not sure where you're based in the UK, Ambassador tends to be adult only. The Marella has an adult only ship. Pinot have 2 adult only ships, Aurora and Arcadia. So those obviously are your safest bets if you want to avoid kids. The other thing to do is go for longer cruises. So if you're looking at cruises sort of 14 days and above, you'll tend to find less kids. If you don't, and you avoid school holiday periods. So, you know, your Easter breaks, your Thanksgivings, obviously your summer holiday kind of time periods, you're less likely to have kids, but generally longer cruises and not in the season. And the more upscale you go, the less kids you'll have. So once you get into your regions, Crystal, Silver Sea, Seabourn, you're less likely to have kids on those, particularly out of season. Obviously, on the other end, if you're going Norwegian or Caribbean, you're going to have loads of kids, loads of families. And even, you know, if you really want to go on those lines, like your Norwegians or Caribbeans, the transatlantics are very good for having few kids on, partly because they tend not to be, you know, when they're in repositioning, because they tend not to, they tend to be too long, and they tend not to be in kind of school holiday time. So that's kind of what sort of happens. Well, we have churned through time. But I will maybe just answer quickly because I've seen whales from the people asking about whales from the cruise ships, which people have answered. It's much better to excuse me, to go on the whale watching tours, which is good. Chris saying I should make a video about getting seats with points. So yeah, I probably should do a short one about that because I do have a strategy. We generally been very successful, but because we booked our cruises so far in advance, and we literally, when they come on, we book them. And what we'll do, which I discovered, is we'll book the way out as soon as it becomes available, and the way back as soon as it becomes available. And if we're doing a 2-for-1 deal, because one of the things you do with our credit card, with the Amex BA card, is you every year, depending if you spend a certain amount, you get a 2-for-1 voucher. So either you can use half the amount of miles, or you can get 2 seats for 1 set of miles, and we use those a lot as well. So I probably should do a short, quick one on that. But so we have churned through time. Thanks so much for joining. Just a reminder that next week there may or may not be a live stream, so keep an eye out for that. I will keep a check once I'm on the ship what the situation is. I'll also check the watch out that Lou said, whether actually in Morocco I can use the Wi-Fi is going to be good enough. I'll also check because there are some other 4G options that I can use on the ship. So thanks very much for joining. Just a reminder that you can watch if you haven't watched it, my Crystal review is there. Happy Mother's Day for those of you that have mothers and Mother's Day. I don't know if it's Mother's Day in the US, but happy Mother's Day anyway. And have a great rest of the weekend and great rest of the weekend. Thanks so much for joining me and all the great questions.